Hello and thank you for joining us. This is the news on NTA International. I am Lami Ali. Here are the headlines. Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 once against use of chloroquine as cure for COVID-19. Federal government commits to financial viability of states as National Economic Council meeting holds. Also on the news, Federal High Court in Yenogwa sentences Yunus and Ahiru, abductor of Esi Oruru, to 26 years in prison. Thank you for joining us again. It is now crystal clear that the country is heading for an economic recession as projected by the National Bureau of Statistics as a result of the negative impact of the coronavirus pandemic. But with the current fiscal stimulus plan to sustain the economy, this may be short-lived, and the federal government says it is as well committed to supporting the financial viability of states despite the dwindling revenue in foreign earnings. The World Bank is also proposing a plan of $1.5 billion for the 36 states of the Federation, which disbursement within the next 3 months will be based on performance of existing World Bank finance programs in such states. These were made known at a virtual meeting of the National Economic Council held this Thursday. Now, the World Health Organization, WHO, has reported 106,000 new cases of COVID-19 globally, the highest in a single day yet, raising concerns over the spread of the virus in poor nations. Let's now join Joyce Ometu for an update on the global scourge.
The death toll from coronavirus in Nigeria has reached 200. This was announced by the Nigeria Center for Disease Control on Wednesday. The health agency also reported 284 new infections, which brings the total tally of confirmed cases to 6,677, out of which 1,840 persons have recovered. The new cases show a slight increase in the number of daily infections compared to the number reported on Tuesday. Lagos State recorded 199 new coronavirus cases, the highest daily figure in Nigeria. Numbers by the Africa Centers for Disease Control as at 6 p.m. show that the tally of those infected with coronavirus in Africa has reached 99,124, while 3,060 fatalities have been recorded. Still in Africa, a 2-day-old baby has died of coronavirus in South Africa, one of the world's youngest victims of the virus. The mother had tested positive for COVID-19 and the child subsequently tested positive. The baby was born prematurely and required ventilation. With 19,137 cases, South Africa tops the infection list in Africa, as 369 people have died from the virus in that country. In the meantime, the World Health Organization said the world recorded 106,000 new cases of coronavirus in 24 hours. This was announced by the WHO Director General, Tedros Ghebreyesus. He said, and I quote, "We still have a long way to go in this pandemic," end of quotes. Meanwhile, figures published by Johns Hopkins University as at 6 p.m. show that the world has so far recorded 5,129,394 COVID-19 cases and seen 331,021 fatalities since the virus emerged. And that's it from here. Many thanks for watching. I am Joyce Ometu.
Meanwhile, the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has warned Nigerians against the use of chloroquine as cure for the coronavirus disease. The chairman of the task force, Boss Mustafa, gave the warning at the daily briefing in Abuja. He said the use of the drug has not been approved by relevant authorities.
Identifying any form of medication, because we know that the issue of abuse in terms of self-medication will become quite rampant.
The PTF advised Nigerians to adhere to all safety measures put in place against the spread of the virus as they celebrate Eid al-Fitr, while stressing that it is collaborating with the House of Representatives at a committee on COVID-19 to end the virus. Minister of Health Osage Hanuri said the objective of the course of action on the ease of lockdown is primarily to save lives, and thus the PTF will ensure that security agencies allow persons on essential duties free movement.
We shall all celebrate this Salah and many more in good health and beseech the Almighty to accept our supplication and look upon our nation and the world with mercy.
Lagos State government is set to integrate home isolation into its services for COVID-19 patients, especially for asymptomatic or mild cases. The State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, at a press briefing on the update of COVID-19 in the state, explained that with this in place, it is expected that cases of infected persons absconding would be reduced. Nusa Osula has the story.
The Commissioner for Health explained that government will validate rapid testing of COVID-19 on residents, most especially healthcare professionals and returnees, to ramp up testing for the virus in the state.
We've decentralized our sample collection, so we're collecting samples in 20 local governments now. So if you want to get tested, you don't have to find your way to one of our isolation facilities, or you don't have to wait for our epidemiology team to come to your house. You can easily walk or find your way to one of those 20 decentralized sample collection sites. And as a result of that, we're seeing more people coming forward for testing.
Professor Abayomi disclosed that the state government will work with traditional medicine practitioners to use dietary herbal supplements to boost the immune system against COVID-19 infection, and this would involve working closely with herbal practitioners to understand the quantity of herbal dosage needed to treat COVID-19 cases.
Herd immunity just means that the number of people in society who have caught COVID and recovered are not likely to be able to catch it again. And so the virus will then start to run out of its opportunity to be infective, and eventually we will reach the peak, and then we will start going down, and that will signify the end of the outbreak.
The Commissioner advised healthcare professionals to practice high level of clinical suspicion of infection when dealing with patients at this time of the pandemic to avoid getting infected, as well as reducing spread by referrals in suspected cases. In Lagos, Nusa Osula, NTA News.
In another development, the Nigerian Correctional Service has released a total of 3,751 inmates comprising convicts and awaiting trial persons who met the set criteria. This is equal to the directive of President Muhammadu Buhari for the decongestion of detention centers across the country to curtail the spread of COVID-19. A statement by the Nigerian Correctional Service Public Relations Officer Anthony Chuksunjoku indicates that a total of 2,600 inmates were initially tipped to benefit from the release of by the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory. However, some states' chief judges during the jail delivery processes granted bail or release to some awaiting trial persons, culminating in the release of 3,751 inmates so far. The number includes 2,740 convicts and 1,011 awaiting trial inmates. The NCOS assures that measures are put in place to ensure continuity, and the final figures will be made public at the end of the exercise. Moving on, Minister of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Onyema has confirmed that 292 Nigerians have been successfully repatriated from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. In a Twitter message, the minister said the stranded Nigerians have been brought back courtesy of Saudi authorities. Most of the returnees are nursing mothers and children. The federal government has made commitments to evacuate stranded Nigerians whose visas might have expired amid coronavirus pandemic that put on hold air travels. Now, in spite of schools' closure in Kano State due to coronavirus pandemic, educational activities are still ongoing as students continue with their normal lessons through the radio and other means. Muhammad Rabiu Ali examines how the exercise is impacting on students, especially prospective candidates of WAEC and NECO.
From the question, we have what? 331 centimeters of.
Barely 7 weeks, all public and private schools in Kano State were closed down, a step to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and ensure every child is safe. Although the session is not yet over, but steps taken by Kano State government in ensuring students are receiving lessons from home through the radio, experts say is a welcome development.
Similarities between gravitational and magnetic field. All right.
You want to know more about the similarities between gravitational and magnetic fields? Well, if you were together with us, hearing from what the students are, the questions coming from students shows much that they are very much ready and they are around their radio and they are happy.
Fatima Abubakar, a student from Kano Model Secondary School, says she has been following the program when covered most part of the school curriculum.
We are picking by the subject and the topics that the teachers are teaching us. I hope that the lesson should continue because we are getting it very well.
We are at home, but we learn many things.
I assure you that this program will last, will continue until the end of this situation.
For the likes of Fatima Abubakar and hundreds of other students, they said the exercise is worth the while.
Now, joining us live in the studio is Dr. Rislan Kenya, Director, ICT Based University, Abuja, to examine the use of alternative means like online methods to teach under COVID-19, the prospects and challenges. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Now, let us begin with your perception of the impact of COVID-19 on education in general.
Yeah, COVID-19 have definitely slowed almost everything globally, from healthcare to tourism, hospitality, airline, and even education. Education is a traditional business that has been there for quite a while and is built based on face-to-face approach. So with the lockdown on everything, education is definitely been affected by COVID-19.
Now, states, including universities, are now embracing online teaching to keep their students busy. Now, what is your impression on this? What impact is it going to have on the education of, these young people?
Yeah, there is a lot of impacts economically, socially, and even as a nation. We can't afford to have more than 20,000 people being at home doing nothing. And that have direct consequences that can lead to biases. And as it is now, there is quite many interventions going on from federal government to state government and to private organizations. I'm very aware the federal government put up intervention, which I can confirm my children are benefiting from the intervention. There is a school, schoolgate.ng, and I can confirm I have sent content from primary 1 up to primary 5. And I know there is also intervention for high school, and there is also for universities. And for private university where I work, I'm sure quite many private universities have already moved online, particularly my own university. When the federal government gave the marching order that all schools be closed down, we seamlessly moved online. And I can confirm, over the last 8 weeks, it's been challenging. We were able to deliver classes online. We were able to administer examination online. And we just resumed last week. The new students have just resumed, and they have done their registration. We have inducted them, and they have started their learning. The new students are also starting their classes next week. So from my own experience, there is a lot of work to be put in place, from the strategy to the implementation and to the evaluation. We all know learning is something that has been there for quite a while and is one of the well-established domains. So in learning, I can confirm there is a need to do maybe need analysis. This technology, are they going to speed up our own national development, or are they going to enable us to continue doing what we are doing?
Now let's look at the rural areas. A large chunk of the population reside in the rural areas. How far can this go in achieving effective teaching and learning?
You know, I can tell you from experience, our students are mainly students from urban area. It's very, very challenging. And when I look at people in the rural area where 3G is not even there, or 4G. So, and if you look at the foundational infrastructure, like the power is not there. If you look at the devices, how many people can afford to have devices, and the cost of the data as well. If you run 1 hour or 2 hours video lecture with the student, if you look at the amount of data you consume, it is really something that we have to consider. So there is need to look at various things in place. ICT have inherited the traditional problem that all development experts are yearning to push up. If you look at it again, the World Development Report and the World Bank have put up a lot of statistical data that ICT is not an area that once you put it up, you have success. I can remember in 2012, World Bank admitted that 75% of the ICT intervention failed to deliver value to the wide range of stakeholders. Even up recently, I look at the World Development Report, and they maintain that even though there is connectivity everywhere, we are on WhatsApp, on Facebook, but are we really doing what we want for our own development with this type of devices and technologies? How many students can learn online? And if you look at my own experience, in my own university, many students and lecturers are struggling because this is a new thing that just happened without proper planning. So it's important we rethink and see this as an opportunity to even do wonder with our own foundational problem.
We thank you very much, Dr. Rislan Kenya, for those comments.
Thank you very much.
I've been speaking with Dr. Rislan Kenya, Director, ICT-based University here in Abuja. You're watching the news on NTA International. Time now to take a break. More stories when we resume.
Make your home the place to be with GoTV's super cool kids channels.
That sounds fun.
From funky friends that'll keep even the little ones busy.
All right, everybody, let's do this!
To learn as you watch educational shows for curious young minds.
You can do some amazing things.
There's plenty for everyone. Tune in to our kids shows and get everything you need to keep the kids entertained and learning the fun way. GoTV, live it, love it.
Thanks for joining us again. The National Interreligious Committee, NIREC, is sustaining prayers for the recovery of the economy, for stability, good governance in Nigeria's national development, as well as praying for the world to defeat COVID-19. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports that the virtual prayers brought together clerics from across the country.
Religious clerics say the coronavirus pandemic has continuously deprived the country and its people the stable environment and social platforms to interact and practice other human activities without apprehension. NIREC prayed for God's intervention in the present situation and urged citizens to take responsibility to reduce impact of community transmission.
Give our health workers and all those serving on the front line of this global emergency strength, protection, and healing. Grant your consolation to the infected, healing to the sick.
We are called on your intervention. We have been in this problem for months. A lot of the entire human race is been facing this challenge. We don't have any person to turn to other than Almighty God.
I pray to Almighty Allah, the creator of heaven and earth, the most beneficent, the most merciful, to guide us aright, to save us from this pandemic, that has ravaged the world in all sectors of this endeavor.
We have come to you at this moment because of the situation that our world is in. We have found ourselves being ravaged by COVID-19. This pandemic, oh God, has reached to the ends of the earth. We are calling upon you that you will help us to experience your compassion.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect Nigeria from the COVID-19 pandemic.
The committee advised Nigerians to remain steadfast in prayers and committed in defeating the pandemic for social harmony and economic prosperity to strive. In Abuja, Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
Now, the National Emergency Management Agency says it has so far distributed more than 20,000 metric tons of grains to Lagos, Ogun, FCT and Kano states, and continuing distribution of the grains to 20 additional states battling with the spread of COVID-19. Directorate of Relief and Rehabilitation of NEMA stated this while briefing journalists on the distribution patterns soon after the inaugural meeting of the new DG with directors of the agency. 24 states have been earmarked to benefit from the distribution of the grains as directed by the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development, Saadia Umar Farouk.
1,000 metric tons out of the 70. So it's the balance of 50 now that we're spreading to the 20 states, or the other 20 states. The quantity for Kano, for maize, we have maize 9,910 metric tons, millet 1,380 metric tons, sorghum 1,710 metric tons.
Placement of priorities, the welfare of staff for effective delivery is promised by the new DG. Some of the staff react.
We thank Mr. President for giving us a new DG and want to assure him that as NEMA staff will cooperate very well with the DG and will give him full support.
Now to security matters. A total of 29 bandits and militia have been eliminated in a joint military operation conducted within the last week. The coordinator, Defense Media Operations, Major General John Inanche, announced this at a periodic news conference in Abuja. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa has details.
It is yet another platform to highlight updates on ongoing joint military operations across the country.
Now a look at other operations.
Top is the outcome of recent Armed Forces Operation Hadarindaji and Wildstroke that resulted in the killing of 29 criminals and recovery of several arms and charms.
We had 7 members of a militia group in Nasarawa State. The good news here is that those ones were arrested intact. In the course of interrogation, you get valuable information that will help us to begin to nip all these activities, particularly that one in the board, because sometimes, more often than not, militias, they are suspected to be sponsored.
Similarly, Nigerian Navy Operation Delta Safe navigated towards impounding over 1,444 barrels of crude oil and over 1.4 million liters of diesel.
A Chinese vessel was attacked by pirates off the coast of Cote d'Ivoire. And what these pirates did was to divert this vessel to the Nigerian waters. 10 of them were arrested while the 18 crew members were all rescued. These crew members comprised of Chinese, Ghanaians and then Ivorians.
Reacting to a video clip circulating on the social media about alleged ambush by Boko Haram on troops, followed by outbursts by some soldiers, the defense headquarters knows that such actions are a result of war trauma, noting that the soldiers have been identified and will undergo observation and counseling. In Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
And in other news, the Federal High Court in Yenagoa, Bayelsa State, has sentenced Yunus Ahiru to 26 years in prison for kidnapping Ese Ururu, a teenager. She was kidnapped and forced into early marriage by her abductor, Yunus Ahiru. The police in March 2016 arraigned Nahiru on a 5-count charge bordering on abduction, kidnapping, unlawful carnal knowledge and sexual exploitation of Aruru, who was 14 years old at the time. The convict kidnapped the teenager from Bayelsa in August 2015 and took her to Kano State. Justice Jenny Yang, who delivered the judgment, found Nahiru guilty on 4 out of the 5 charges preferred against him. The judge held that the sentences will run concurrently. In other words, the convict will only spend 7 years in prison. When rain gathers, the earth opens its arms to embrace the soothing comforts of water, but not all inhabitants of the earth share this enthusiasm. Here in the Federal Capital Territory, the threat of flood and erosion is sending chills down the spine of residents in some areas. NTA Fanface tells us the story.
When it's about to rain, I become afraid because of what the volume of water is making, the noise, the sound. I'm afraid that the remaining portion of the fence and the building may collapse.
Elizabeth Ako, a widow of many years, is about losing her home to the hungry wombs of erosion.
Even my husband is late. I alone cannot even meet the family demands. Talk more of coming to do this one.
Our life and structures are being threatened.
Alphonsus Obe is losing part of the foundation of his property to this widening gully at Area A New Extension Phase 1, Yanya, in the Federal Capital Territory.
In fact, we are afraid that if nothing is done very quickly, the structure might collapse. That is colossal damage.
Elsewhere in Gishuri, Saidu Garba believes that the carelessness of residents who block water channels will cost him his source of livelihood when the rains come.
They are stopping people from dumping refuse, but the people are not complying. So we are calling on them to stop. It is not right to dump refuse on waterways.
Whether a large-scale government intervention for Mrs. Aku or a better sense of individual responsibility in clearing drainages, Director General Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency insists that the time to prevent erosion and flooding is now that the rain clouds are still gathering.
State governments, individuals, to begin to prepare for flooding by keeping their environments clean, desilting canals, cleaning drainages, and ensuring that where no drainage exists, that they put one.
The clouds will gather again, pregnant with months of rain. When it bursts, will the water find passage through blocked channels and drains such as this? Will the water sink the remains of this home hanging on the precipice of destruction? Or better still, will intervention from relevant agencies of government come in good time to save lives and property from destruction? On NTA Fanface, NTA News.
And up next is Friday's weather prospects for Nigerian cities and other parts of the world. And that's the much we have time for.